If you know anything about politics, if you know anything about the judicial system, the legislative branch, or the executive branch, you know that it is a system filled with and built on and designed for the sake of committing mass atrocities. In other words, top to bottom, it's completely corrupt. I don't care if you're talking about the judges, the senators, the congressmen, the presidents, the FBI, the ATF, the DEA. They're all corrupt agencies, corrupt people, corrupt judges, corrupt politicians. So it's interesting to watch how fake stream CIA infiltrated Operation Mockingbird MK Ultra Media on the left tackles the same exact issue the right does. So we're going to look at the right and left handling of the two judges. That's Wisconsin judge. I think she's a circuit court judge in Milwaukee County, Hannah Dugan, and the former magistrate judge in New Mexico, Joel Cano. So they've been arrested by federal agents for harboring or basically getting immigrants to get away with certain things. Now, I agree that judges should be arrested, but they should be arrested. They should have been arrested a long time ago. They should be arrested because when you enter a courthouse anywhere in America, you are stripped of your basic, unalienable, supposedly constitutionally protected rights. You don't get to arm yourself. You have to be disarmed while the law enforcement agents in that courtroom are armed to the teeth. And number two, you don't really have any rights in that court, even though they say you do. You're there for due process. And we know that because the jails, the prison industrial complex is filled with people who haven't committed any crime because they haven't left a victim. They're basically there for victimless crimes. And the courts oversee these, they preside over these, and they cage innocent human beings in America in the name of protecting democracy and ensuring that we promote the general welfare. So here's Trump talking about the courts holding us back after the arrest of the Wisconsin judge, Hannah Dugan. And then we're going to go over to what CNN is saying about this exact same issue. And then we're going to take a look at what Fox News briefly says about this issue. Check this out.
Terrible thing. The judge was arrested because he was housing a trendy Tahlequah, right? Is that the one you're talking about? It's pretty surprising. It's terrible. The border.
He's referring to Judge John Cano there, not Hannah Dugan in this case.
Is the most secure it's ever been. We're having a very hard time with judges because they don't want people to be moved out of the country. Shockingly, nobody's ever had this before. No other president. There's never been a time when this has ever become an issue where they talk about due process when you have millions of people that you're moving out that are really bad people, very dangerous people, and you have a judge that wants every single one of them to have a trial. So they want us to have millions of trials, therefore. And how long does the trial take? Weeks? The trial can take weeks. That's not what it.
So basically he's denying due process. Now, this is under the auspices of, well, they're illegals. They don't get due process because they're not American citizens. But this will be played out and exponentiated to all Americans. It will be projected to all of us. That's how tyranny works. Tyranny doesn't stay stagnant. Tyranny is malignant and will continue to spread. Now, Cano and his wife, Nancy, were arrested for allegedly housing a Venezuelan national with reported ties to Tren de Aragua gang, which is this transnational criminal organization. The arrest occurred hours before Dugan's arrest in Wisconsin. This right here was in New Mexico on the same day as part of a broader federal crackdown on individuals assisting undocumented immigrants labeled as violent criminals by the authorities. Now, my question is, do you trust the authorities? I mean, you used to not trust them, people on the right, you conservatives. You used to say, man, the nine most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. Well, that's still true. No matter who you're supporting. The reason people have moved away from the principal position is because they are drinking the Kool-Aid. They are in the cult of personality. They are following Trump, just like people followed Harris and Biden and Obama.
It's about. That's not what our country's about. And that's not what I got elected on. And these are judges that just want to, show how big and important they are. They're local federal judges, and they shouldn't be allowed to do it. We have hundreds of thousands of people that we want to get out of the country.
All right, so let's go to CNN dealing with the same thing. This specifically is referring to the Wisconsin judge, whereas Trump was referring to the New Mexico judge, John Cano.
A judge in Wisconsin has been arrested and charged for allegedly obstructing ICE agents. Judge Hannah Dugan is accused of helping an undocumented immigrant avoid arrest. Now, according to court documents, federal agents arrived to our courtroom to detain a Mexican immigrant just over a week ago. Witnesses say they saw Dugan direct the man to leave her courtroom through a private door. He was later taken into custody. Joining us now is CNN senior law enforcement analyst Andrew McCabe. Andrew, I've heard you say that this incident should never have happened. Explain why.
Well, I think there's a whole bunch of different ways that this thing went wrong. And I should say, first of all, I don't believe that the law enforcement officers here did anything inappropriate. It is maybe shocking for some people to realize, but people do get arrested at the courthouse.
She probably is a liberal activist judge, just like Judge Cano is probably, or magistrate, former magistrate Cano was a liberal activist magistrate. But there's activism in all judgments. They are suspending the Constitution. They are violating people's rights on the daily, and that's what they should be arrested for, because those are true crimes. Stick with the true crimes. These politicians and these black robe tyrants are career criminals.
Periodically, it doesn't happen every day, but it is a place that you can know someone where you know someone's going to be there at a particular time. And you can do it in a way that's safe because they've already come through a metal detector. Now, those arrests are usually required to take place in the public spaces, the hallways outside the courtrooms, and not to interrupt the courtroom proceeding. But it sounds from the complaint like that's exactly what the law enforcement officers plan to do here. That's
another thing. That's another interesting point. And I'm telling you, nobody on the left, nobody on the right is talking about this. The Tim Pools of this world aren't talking about this. No, but the Candace Owens aren't talking about this. When you enter a courtroom, whether you're talking about a circuit court, whether you're talking about the Supreme Court, you are not allowed to film. You're taking away your right to freedom of press. You're not allowed to speak what you want to speak. You got to be quiet. You got to say, yes, Your Honor. No, Your Honor. You talk about an irony, a grave irony. In the court system, that's where you're supposed to have due process of law. And yet the supreme law of the land is kicked out. You don't have the right to protect yourself. You don't have the right to property because the court will take that too. And you don't have the right to freedom of press or freedom of speech. And that is why the judges should be arrested, because they are taking away the unalienable rights of Americans who are supposed to be free in the land of the free.
Whether or not the judge intentionally obstructed the proceeding and intentionally concealed this man from arrest, those are the offenses she's been charged with, will come down to determining her intent. But there are a bunch of witnesses in this complaint who will certainly testify on behalf of the government as to what they saw her do. So it won't be a question so much of did she or did she not walk these people back into a private hallway. It'll be more, what did she intend by doing that?
Okay, so let's stay in this space here.
I know what she's going to say. She's going to say these people are granted or are recognized to have the ability to plead their case, their day in court. They get due process. So I wanted to protect that, and I wanted to preserve that, not just for these people, but for all Americans. That's what she could say. That's what she would hide behind.
And
it's not true.
Extract the politics. Let's take the Trump of it and the mass deportation and all of that out of it. I know you say you have to get to intent, but how strong, based on the complaint, do you think the case is?
I think it's fairly strong, Victor. As I said, there's a number of witnesses here who perceive these events in real time. They've reported what they saw to the agent who's put that into the complaint. There's a bunch of law enforcement officers who were there who listened to the things she said, who will testify about how she reacted negatively to the discovery that there was law enforcement outside of her courtroom. So there's a lot of circumstantial evidence there. But it'll come down to a jury to determine whether or not they think the judge intentionally tried to conceal this person or get him away from law enforcement. So
I personally love the concept of people. It's not because I'm on the side of federal agents. We know the FBI and the DEA and ICE, they're decidedly against Americans. They don't care whose home they bash in, door they bash in at 3:00 in the morning. But there's something that brings joy to my heart that a judge could have someone enter their chambers and be more powerful than they are and watch them go out of their own courtroom and their chambers in cuffs. There's something fantastic about that. Here is Fox News's handling of this same incident.
A Wisconsin judge under arrest and facing charges accused of flouting federal law to help an illegal immigrant.
Oh, we hear that a lot. Flouting federal law. You don't flout federal law. You don't disrespect the federal agents. You comply with the federal authority. What I see happening here is an overreach of the federal government continuing. See, they overreach in enough things. And I'm not saying that they did wrong per se by arresting the judges. They shouldn't exist. The judge shouldn't exist. The judge is a criminal. The DEA is a criminal. The FBI, the ATF, ICE, they're all criminal organizations doing criminal, horrible things on the tax cattle dime. So there's no part of, and then we have the propaganda machine of the fake stream CIA infiltrated Operation Mockingbird, MK Ultra media, left and right, continuing to foment this and show you, hey, the federal agencies are important. Not so much the leftists right now, because the leftists only rejoice when the reins of the federalized power are in the hands of the Democrats, and then they bemoan it when those reins are handed over to the Republicans. But what people need to understand is the reins handed over to the Democrats or the Republicans still stay in the same banker, corporate, elitist hands, no matter who sits behind the desk resolute at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Federal prosecutors say Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Hannah Dugan allegedly helped that migrant avoid arrest by ICE officers at the courthouse. It's a bizarre case and it's still unfolding. Hello, I'm John Roberts in Washington. Sandra, good to see you back again.
All right.
Of the administrative warrant for the arrest of Flores Ruiz. Judge Dugan then escorted Flores Ruiz and his counsel out of the courtroom through the jury door, which leads to a non-public area of the courthouse.
All right, now let's listen to Pam Bondi.
Even tried to kick the deportation agents out of the courthouse.
Yeah, and to set the stage for you and Sandra, this was truly horrific. This guy was in court being prosecuted by a state prosecutor for domestic violence battery.
And let me just tell you, the AG and the director of the FBI are not focused on getting rid of the PDF files in America and emptying out the PDF files in Washington's District of Criminals and turning that thing upside down and shaking all the cockroaches out. They are focused on honing their skills and sharpening their swords so that they can continue with the long and costly and failed Nixon drug war, which is not a war on drugs, it's a war on people. That's what these people have been up to. Now they're going to go after the immigrants instead of going after the central banking cartel. The immigrants, no matter how many immigrants you're talking about in this country, the immigrants can't fund a war. They can't fund the war machine. They don't control or create the issuance and value of your currency, thereby controlling the value of your time and labor. Immigrants don't do that. They cannot commit the grave atrocities on the level of a central banking cartel or corporate elitists or politicians. They can't do it. These people are not going after the people who are really committing the crimes. They're going after the low dangling fruit, the fruit that's already fallen to the ground, in an effort to justify their existence, to justify the existence of the Department of Injustice or the FBI or the CIA or the ATF. You don't see Kash Patel going after the ATF or doing an internal investigation on the FBI for what happened at Ruby Ridge and Waco. No. They're not going to do that, because if you did that, you'd find it's full of corruption, and that those organizations need to be dissolved. All of those alphabet soup, blood-sucking parasitic agencies.
He had beat up two people, a guy and a girl, hit the guy 30 times, knocked him to the ground, choked him, beat up a woman so badly they both had to go to the hospital. And John, you know, it's so
she's declaring him guilty. So she's a judge. She's not even saying reportedly or allegedly. She's actually the judge, jury, and the executioner right here. I don't know if that's true about this guy or not. If it is true, then the guy needs to be separated from society. He needs to go to jail. But she doesn't know if it's true or not. That's probably why the guy was in this chick's courtroom. Look at her, man. Look at her. This is just despicable. Just despicable.
Rare for victims to want to cooperate. They wanted to cooperate. They were sitting in the courtroom with the state prosecutor. The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he had been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out. She goes out in the hallway, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge.
I don't believe one word any of these people. I don't believe Judge Dugan. I don't believe CNN. I don't believe Fox News. I don't believe Pam Bondi. I don't believe Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. You're going to have to prove this. Where's the video evidence? Did the FBI have body cameras? If they did not, then why not? Did the ICE agents have body cameras? They need to wear them. We need to see federalized transparency all across the board. I don't believe one word she ever says. She's one of the most unbelievable people I've ever heard. Not even a good liar.
She comes back in the courtroom. You're not going to believe this. Takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave, while a state prosecutor and victims of domestic violence are sitting in the courtroom.
Wow.
You know, Madam Attorney General, great to have you here, and thanks for coming back on America Report. So we remember these words of Tom Homan, the border czar. This was March 17th. And
we have czars. The border czar.
His message on these judges who apparently are trying to get in the way of this administration's efforts. Listen.
I'm proud to be a part of this administration. We're not stopping. I don't care what the judges think. I don't care what the left thinks. We're coming.
So when you see these judges trying to...
Look at Tom Homan's eyes. Look at his face. Yeah, something's coming, Tom. It's a heart attack. Your heart attack's right around the corner.
Obstruct your efforts to make this country safer. What is your message to them?
We are going to prosecute you, and we are prosecuting you. I found out about this the day it happened. We could not believe, actually, that a judge really did that. We looked into the facts in great...
We're not prosecuting anybody on the Epstein client list, but we're going to prosecute these guys. You could take that to the bank.
Depth. That's her picture up on the screen. Hannah Dugan, who is now in custody. You cannot obstruct a criminal case, and really, shame on her. It was a domestic violence case of all cases, and she's protecting a criminal defendant over victims of crime.
In fact, she just had an initial appearance in court. There's also this other case coming out of New Mexico. Judge Joel Cano and his wife were arrested for harboring a TDA member at their home. The alleged TDA member had been picked up by law enforcement, and now he and his wife were picked up and arrested. And you say that you believe, as the attorney...
I tell you what. All these judges are eating very, very well on our dime.
Attorney General, that the person that they were...
Dunlap's disease right there. That belly Dunlapped over his belt a couple times.
Living at their home was a truly potentially bad individual.
Yeah, that's the judge up on the screen now who got arrested. Yeah, his name is Ortega. He was is a known TDA member. So he comes through Eagle Pass December 2023. He's living in our country. January 2025, ICE, they get a tip. Tom Homan's done a great job. Our FBI did a great job on this case, too. They get a tip that he is living with a judge and the judge's wife. So they have him arrested first on immigration charges. A Judge Damian Martinez releases him, saying that Judge Cano has a good BS meter and wouldn't let just anyone live on his property.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the associations with this violent Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua, and this person that they harbored in their home, he was showing signs through clothing, we were told, tattoos. There was evidence through voice messages.
What is the truth here? Is that true? Was this Judge Joel Cano really giving safe harbor to members of Tren de Aragua? Are Tren de Aragua who the mainstream media and the conservatives tell us they are? Is Fox News telling us the truth right here? What is really going on?
and text messages of his association to TDA. So what charges will Cano and his wife face, if any?
So Judge Cano, soon to be former Judge Cano, got his charges were just unsealed. He's charged with obstruction. He admitted post Miranda. He took one of the TDA members' cell phones himself, took it, beat it with a hammer, destroyed it, and then walked the pieces to a city dumpster to dispose of it to protect him. The wife also is charged with destroying evidence.
How did they find that out?
Sandra, not only that,
if this judge is really giving safe harbor to the gang of Tren de Aragua, I wonder what his cut is.
TDA member, and he had on a necklace that said kill, something about death. He had tattoos all over him. He also had on his cell phone pictures of
something about death. If I was the AG, I'd be walking around with a manila folder. I'd have all my aides with briefcases. If I was going to give some kind of a talk or a statement on any kind of broadcast, I would bring out that folder with the clear pictures. This is the thing that was hanging around his neck right here. This right here is what he said. Here's the destroyed cell phone. I would have all the proof. I wouldn't want people just to take my word for it. I would walk around all over the place. I don't care if it's CNN or faux news. I'd be walking in there with all the proof that I need to show for the cameras. You could blow it up. 8.5 by 11. Here, look, there's this right here. There's that right here. Here's the recorded. Here's what the judge said. Don't take my word for it.
Decapitated victims, two victims, decapitated, gruesome photos. And he was sending them out, and whoever he was sending them to was sending back saying, hey, you need to be careful. You shouldn't be sending these. You shouldn't be texting these photos out. Not only that, these two, the judge and
she could easily produce the evidence to support what she's saying, and she's not.
His wife gave him assault rifles that belonged to their daughter. That's what they're charged with. In the criminal report affidavit, he goes to a shooting range with these assault rifles, with a suppressor, with other known TDA members, and they're shooting. This is the last person that we want in our country, nor will we ever tolerate a judge or anyone else harboring them.
Let me, if I could, Madam Attorney General, come back to the Wisconsin case and Judge Hannah Dugan, because in allegedly letting the perpetrator and the attorney out through a non-public exit and allowed them to get out in front of the building, we had a situation where we've seen that I know Tom Homan was complaining about in Colorado, where there would be no transfer of a defendant from a jail.
I didn't even know that. She's standing next to the bust of one of the biggest tyrants in the land, Abraham. I'll kill as many people as it takes to keep the Union together, Lincoln.
To ICE custody on a detainer request in a way that was orderly and protected public safety. They would dump them off in a parking lot, and then ICE would have to chase them around with the DEA or whatever, or FBI, and pick them up. This ended up in a foot chase in public sight. It says here, a foot chase ensued. The agents, and this was a DEA agent and an FBI agent, pursued Flores Ruiz for the entire length of the courthouse, ultimately apprehended him near the intersection of West State Street and 10th Street. So,
got to work on that cardio, Ruiz. Got to work on that cardio.
The judge apparently has created a situation here where you have a public foot chase. And we all know that, well, sometimes they can come off without incident. They can also turn into very dangerous situations.
John, that's exactly right. She put the lives of our law enforcement officers at risk. She put the lives of citizens at risk. A street chase, which is absurd.
Not American citizens. This person right here believes you're a subject of the jurisdiction, the federal jurisdiction.
That had to happen. But yes, she put a lot of people in danger. That judge did it. So did the other judge. Judge Cano is charged with, they were allegedly giving him assault rifles, AK-47s, AR-15s, with a suppressor, a known TDA member, letting him go.
Yeah, I know you already said that. So you've got the left exploding. You've got the right rejoicing. And here we are in the middle. We're stuck in the middle again, aren't we? So you've got the judges. Yes, the judges should be arrested. But also on the other side of it, yes, ICE and the FBI and the DEA and the ATF should be dissolved. Leave your thoughts about this for the World and the Global Thought Police in the comments section below. Yeah, the judges should be arrested for reasons entirely different then we're seeing them get arrested today. Yes, this is unprecedented. You don't hear of circuit court judges or magistrates getting arrested, especially that one getting arrested in her chambers. That's pretty interesting. I applaud that, but not for the reasons that they did it. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below if you haven't done so already. And you want to support this channel, you can do it for free by just liking this video, sharing it with everybody you know. I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think? How do you think the Trump administration is doing? What do you think immigration policy should be? Should we have immigration policy? Are there bigger fish to fry? Shouldn't we go back after the central bankers and the AIPAC-owned, Israeli-owned congressmen and senators who are thrusting the knife, the dagger deep into the hearts of the American economy and in the backs of all Americans? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video.